This is my second interview with Sophialfa. And before I start explaining anything, I have to tell you about one of the biggest blunders that I've made in the entire time that I've been doing this. I lost almost all the footage for this entire interview. I have footage of me for like two of the four sections, but nothing else. Everything else is gone. I shot this around or over a year ago, and getting time to editing it, almost everything was gone. Thankfully, though, I have all the audio. So I'll just clarify that now there's zero footage of Sophialfa actually talking in this. So I just went off her Instagram like I did in the last one, like I'm going to continue to do for B-roll, and just show kind of the timeline of Sophialfa's Instagram. So I want to start off there with an apology. Sorry for that. My file and organization system definitely broke down there. So this will have to be an audio interview, which is a shame because this one is a phenomenal one. It's actually our second interview, and we get a lot into Sophialfa's career as a musician, where it's going, where she's at right now in her career and personal life, her education, Massachusetts, where she's going to be moving shortly after this. She already moved there. And then a lot of things that artists in general can relate to. Before we get into all that though, as always, here's a little sample work of hers.
Pide para el trago de emergencia, en lo que yo hago la diligencia. Esta noche me voy contigo, en la cama es que me gusta la violencia. Love me when you want always, y te prometo never leave you regardless. Me without you, didn't think it would feel this good. Ultimately was misunderstood. It's okay, sometimes we all get stuck. I do shout outs, people look to leave me out. Matter of fact, keep my name out your mouth if you need something to talk about.
So this first section is basically us just catching up since the last interview, because it's been, I forget, at this point it had probably been a year and a half since we interviewed. The premise of this section is that Sophialfa at the time of this interview was just about to depart from Hawaii back to Massachusetts. So keep that in mind as we talk about what we do in this section, which is mainly stability and then also business and entrepreneurship, if that's how you say that word. So, you're leaving Hawaii soon.
Yeah.
We're able to get last interview in. You know, I'm really happy that we're able to make it work, make the time work out, you know, with both of us being busy, we're able to squeeze it in. So, what are your emotions?
That's a good question. I think I've kind of numbed myself out to the like, okay, this is life. You know, we're moving on to the next chapter. It's not like I'm moving to new terrain. I'm just going back home to Massachusetts. And I'm going back to stability, basically. So I think like that's something I've been craving for a while, or like seeking is stability. And yeah, maybe that's why I'm also numb, because I'm like, okay, I have to shed everything I've made here in Hawaii. Whatever it is, I have to kind of leave it here, and then obviously bring, like, I have a lot of Hawaii like merch. I'm bringing back like a mug that has like the license plate on it. So I'm like, there's a lot of little Hawaii things that like I'm just gonna bring with me as reminders. But I'm like, it's gonna be behind me now. And like the biggest thing with me is I'm like, I want to maintain a relationship with the island and stuff. So I'm like, I definitely want to come back and visit, but it'll obviously be different because like when I'm living here, I have all my, you know, needs, my car, everything. So now when I'm visiting, I have to be very cognizant of like, okay, maybe I'll stay at a friend's place, maybe I'll get a hotel, you know, all these extra steps. Yeah. So it's definitely, my biggest thing is maintaining a relationship with the island, but also parting from like the life I had here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Just leaving it all. Yeah. It's going to be a lot more difficult to maintain that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what type of projects have you been up to recently?
Definitely the biggest projects is having visuals for all of my releases. Like, I'm definitely working on having all my music automated and everything, because I also like another thing I crave and seek is having my own online business. I've done it before in middle school when I was just a kid, so I know I can do it as an adult. But obviously the priority is like establishing myself as a small artist or a bigger artist in the future, and just making sure all my ducks are in order, because with this thing, like especially independent, there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of projects that I've established and then didn't get them delivered on time because of me or because of the people that I commissioned, this, that, and the third. So it's just like everything has to be in order before I can move on to the next thing, because I don't want to be stretched thin, basically. That's a bar. Yeah.
What type of store did you have in middle school?
I had I don't know, I would resell, like, I made jewelry at first, so I was on Etsy selling the handmade jewelry and stuff. And then I moved on to like reselling things. So I made my money off of selling emoji pillows. And I was on Etsy, but then they blocked me or banned me because it wasn't handmade. So then I moved on to Store Envy and all these things. I made a bag off of emoji pillows. Yeah. So, like the ones that are like in the mall and stuff. Yeah. That was 3 years before they started selling in the mall. So like I was the only source. And definitely an Alibaba babe. And I still have a lot of the stuff that I stopped selling. So, and I stopped because I had so much business that I was like, I couldn't go to the post office. I had to do school and athletics and stuff.
Yeah.
For me, that's kind of a lame, like, imagine if I had kept going, like push myself to do the extra 15%. But I did quit. And so now I'm like, I need to get that back up and not quit. Like, I know I can do it. I maintained it by myself. I built up like a 3,000 following on Instagram for my store.
Really?
Yeah. And so like I know I can do it. And those
in
are all
middle school. You had that?
Yeah, all
That's
organic.
Crazy.
Yeah, I had like models and sponsors and stuff like that. So I'm like, I could do that at like 12 to 14 years old. What am I doing now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also had like, I've always been the type of person I want to work with people.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you bring up AI and stuff, I still commission people for my art. And I'm like, am I making a mistake doing that? But at the end of the day, I've always, just wanted to work with other people. And I bring that up because like the last things I was selling was like iPhone cases.
Yeah.
With like one of my old friends, like designs and stuff for
That's
like
cool.
a brand of movies and stuff. And so I still had all these iPhone cases. And I'm like, dang, these are trash because these are like 5 years old iPhones that nobody uses. But
yeah.
That was one of the last things I did in high school. And then I was like, okay, I'm over this. Which also I'm like, why was I over it? I could have made so much more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that relating to what you're doing right now, what's been kind of driving that thought process back in your mind?
For the business?
For the business side of things, maybe not necessarily specifically like an online store, but more so on that entrepreneur side of things.
I mean, I've been selling stuff since I was like 6 because both of my parents are entrepreneurs. So like I didn't really have babysitters and stuff. So I would sit or like be in the store with my mom working and stuff. And I learned how to make like those lanyards out of GIMP, like like keychains like this made out of little plastic.
Yeah, the little things that you would not knit, but
yeah, basically, yeah, with your hands, like 2 hands. You can make like squares or I don't know, bracelets, lanyards, whatever. I would make those, put a little keychain on it, or what do you call that? The little ring. Yeah, a ring on it. A keychain ring, something like that.
Oh yeah.
And then sell them for like $5. And then this one time, my biggest sale was selling a phone that my parents couldn't sell, or like they were gonna sell it for like $75, and I sold it for $150.
Yeah,
it was like the world's smallest phone. So I was like, how are you not gonna pay top dollar for the world's smallest phone? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so I've definitely been surrounded by it. It's definitely something I'm comfortable with, and just like accepting like you can make your own.
Yeah.
Like the ideal goal, of course, is to be paid to exist, be paid while I'm sleeping, like while I'm breathing, while I'm just living life. And that's the only way you can do it is through entrepreneurship. Like you can't do that slaving away at a job. So I definitely also like, I don't bash people that work because I'm like, I don't have a job right now because I'm in between things. I can't say anything about anybody having a job. Like at least you have an income.
Yeah.
So I definitely like with the music and the business, it's just like I get overwhelmed and I'm like, why when I can do both? And if anything, they intersect too, so it's like definitely just educating myself on music business and entrepreneurship in general, and then just making a plan and making it work.
Yeah. So then more generally, and that, don't let me forget later on, but I have a lot of questions related to entrepreneurship and specifically selling, so don't let me forget those later on. More broadly, with the context of you're about to experience another major shift in life, leaving Hawaii, going back to Massachusetts, going back to stability, leaving this place you've known for a while. What has your kind of like Where's your mind been at as far as your outlook and your mindset and everything like the past year as it's been closing in, you know?
Right. My mind has been focused on the future, but trying not to, because you know what they say about like, okay, depression is the past, anxiety is the future, and the present is just, you're in the moment, right? So I'm definitely trying not to be that. And even that with me brings like contradiction, because I'm like, okay, as a songwriter, all I do is talk about my past because my stories, right?
Yeah.
But then definitely my mind is at like, what do I need in order to prepare myself for the next steps, which is building my own studio at home, moving, first of all, like just trying not to overwhelm myself by getting too ahead of myself, I guess. So like right now, we figured out to ship the car, got a pod for all the furniture and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I'm trying to figure out when I'll even be in Massachusetts, like timing of things. And then the next steps with that would be clearing out the garage, insulating it. Like I like how I have like things I have to do in order to get to like the final product. Like I definitely love construction stuff because it's like you can see what you built, you know, it's there, it's materialized. So that's how the mindset I'm in is like I get to start from new, or like from zero, basically from -20 basically. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, make my house a home. That's on my list of things, is like make the house that I grew up in my home, like as an adult.
Moving on from the business topic, the next part is kind of just about being a planner, especially as it relates to business. That leads me to ask about what big changes she's experienced in life recently, to which she lets me know that really the main thing that she had been focused on at the time and the main like blessing she'd received was the opportunities.
You know?
Yeah. Do you have trouble like getting ahead of yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a planner, and I like to say like sometimes I don't know if that's working for me or against me, because like I'll plan, and then at the end of the day with some things I'm like, okay, well I did this and that because I said I was going to do it because I planned for it. But then there's other times where I'm like, I spent an hour meticulously for no reason because the plan didn't even come to fruition, you know?
Yeah.
And then somebody I know from college, they said the same thing. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this and that. And he told me, he's like, you can make a plan, and none of it happened. So I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be so, you know, meticulous about it.
Yeah.
But I definitely like write down what I want. And then if it happens, it happens. I'll try my best. But if it doesn't, I can't. Like I have to have grace with certain things, you know?
Yeah. One of the books I read not too long ago, I think it was called like the Blue Shift Effect or something. It was about entrepreneurs and small businesses. The guy talked, it's interesting because it relates to what you're saying. He said that he doesn't like to necessarily plan strictly because everything's pretty much a guess, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. He said, now you can debate me on this and like correct me, because from what you said, you definitely have more experience than I do, you know, and more knowledge with selling and building a base to sell from, you know. But yeah, he said that he likes more taking guesses and then rolling with the punches. And that's just I thought that was like a nice note.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of in that bucket right now. I'm like, with the music, especially what I'm doing with the singles a month, I'm like, because people have not bashed me, but like some people have their own opinion of like, oh, you have to stick to a genre, you have to be doing this and that. And I'm just like, I only had 3 things uploaded in the last 2 years, so I'm just throwing everything I can, like frisbees, and whatever catches, whatever lands, whatever. I don't know the best analogy. I'm gonna keep running with that. So like, let's say this month I'm dropping an R&B trap, and then last month I dropped like a alternative pop punk kind of thing. So if people are like, oh, I really like this song from last month and not so much the one from this month, then I'm like, maybe I should run with that sound. So I'm like, you know, I kind of agree with that, where it's just like you have to see what really lands, and sometimes you can't plan. Like you could have a whole mansion dreamed up in your head and then end up in a trailer and be more happy in that trailer than you would ever be in the mansion, you know?
Yeah. So over around this past year, maybe, what do you think has changed for you in regards to you as Sophialfa and then your work?
The first thing that popped in my mind when you said that, when you asked it, was just opportunities. And like, I feel like one thing that I question myself a lot on is like, you know, what you think in your head is what comes to be. So I'm like, I try not to, like, I negate all negative thoughts, and like I try not to give any power to doubt and stuff. So I'm very cognizant of that, I would say. And then like with opportunity, what I mean by that is just like I'm giving myself, for example, the days I don't want to go outside, I'm like, I probably should, because what if I run into someone I could like really benefit from knowing?
Yeah.
Or just trying not to miss out on things because of how I feel, really.
Yeah.
And then it's crazy, the song just came on because like in DR, so one of my favorite things, okay, this is important for this year. I think last year or 2 years ago, I was at it was called Collab Camp. It was basically just like a bunch of artists, songwriters, media, everybody just like they signed up to be at this one event. And I was telling this one girl who's like a holistic, I don't know how to describe her, but she's a vibe setter, I guess. She does like opening practices for events and stuff, like to get the vibe right and get everybody in the same, like, drop your egos, leave your egos at the door. We're here for one purpose type thing. And I was telling her, I'm like, I want to have a Latin career by 2026 because I always knew I wanted to have kind of, use both English and Spanish and just have like, all parts of me available as an artist. And she told me something, I totally forgot what she was like. I don't know. I told her about my future things, which were like at the time I was doing a study abroad or on the way to do a study abroad and all this and that. And she basically told me like, don't give it a time or a date. It's just going to be kind of. Mm-hmm. And like 2026 is still 2 years from now. And I'm already doing what I said 2 years ago, which is starting that Latin career. And it started off right because like now my mom, she's like, let's say I'm like 2 to 3 years in professionally as a musician. Now she's also like on board. She's got my back. She's basically my Latin manager. Yeah. And the project that she kind of backed is popping off. And everything was manned by her. So that was me having like to let go of reins and let go of like ego of being like, you don't know more or you don't know better. You don't know what you're talking about. She also learned a lot the hard way because she didn't know what she was doing and she went with feeling and like impulsivity. So like money was lost, this and that. But now we're on the other end of like, okay, we took a risk and now it's kind of, we're getting the fruits of it.
Yeah.
So I would say that is just like allowing more opportunity, even if it's not what I want in my head, like what I had planned or what I thought how things would go. Definitely just letting the doors open and also letting the doors close. Cause that's something too, the past year, I'm like, I'm not suffocating things as much, like people and music and like deadlines and stuff. I'm just worrying about what I got to worry about, which is making sure my music comes out on time, my visuals are done, this and that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, letting go and just, I don't know, losing the need for control, I guess, is finally happening.
Yeah.
I can say I'm definitely maturing because the way I see it is like from high school to, I would say like 22 years old. Not from high school, but from 18 after high school to 22 years old, I realized like I never let myself really live like as a kid or like, cause I was always working, trying to make money, just trying to be an adult, I guess. And then I finished my gap year, or I was in my gap year in India, and I was like, this is the perfect time to like not be responsible for the world, And so now I'm on the other end of that where it's like for 3 years, I was really like, let me act my age type of mindset. And now I'm like, okay, I acted my age. I acted 21, I acted 22. I'm 23 turning 24. So I'm like, definitely, I'm like, okay, I'm a young adult for real. Like if I hit 25 and I'm in the same place I am now, it would not be good for me. Cause like I have friends that just turned 25 and they were doing music since 18. And I'm like, I want to be where they are, Yeah. Granted, that's like a 7-year difference, but I think I can still hit that in the next 2 years, By the time I'm 25, I see myself where they are. So.
Yeah. Next, we get into a part that's, I think, really relatable for anybody who's pursuing art, no matter at what level, because we talk a lot about work and education. Work as in like balancing making money versus making art and how that kind of affects you and the choices you have to make with that. And then also about her education, where she's at with it, what her plans are, and how it's gone. Since the last interview we shot, she had just finished her degree.
No.
So 2 questions that pop up into my mind from that. One, so are you still working in or pursuing? I think the last time we had talked, you had just that year finished your degree. Mm-hmm. Are you working in or pursuing, what was it? It was
international studies.
International studies.
Yeah, it's crazy because so I finished international studies and then they told me I had like a semester left of my finance degree. And so I check in again and they're like, oh, it's 7 classes, so that would be like 3 classes one semester, 4 classes another, so that's a year. So I'm like, I can't do that right now, there's too many things. And I never even really liked the finance degree because it was just like, so like HBU's curriculum for that just wasn't working for me, I guess. And so now I have to set up like a meeting with the registrar and be like, when do my credits expire? Because I would love to finish it. I have a year left. How am I not going to finish that? But not right now. So yeah. And then I've definitely been job searching, but I had a few opportunities and they turned me down because of like my online presence, I guess.
Really?
They were like, is she a model? Is she da-da-da? Like, if she's not focused on the job, then we don't want her. I was like, and that's exactly what I was afraid of too, is like applying to places and then being like, oh, we can't hire you because you have actual other goals in life. I'm like, that you don't want to sign your life away to this employment or employer, so we don't want you. And I'm like, that's what I've been experiencing. So I'm like, dang. But yeah, that just gives me more motivation to like do my business and my entrepreneurship, because I'm like, well, you know, if I'm being pushed to do that, then that's what I got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's good. I feel like that's a test, you know, in moments like those when you come to an impasse where it's like you can choose one of two routes, and the fact that you're able to choose to not sacrifice yourself for that, you know.
Yeah, I'm also now kind of shifting gears and applying to only music kind of things. So like I'm going to be applying to more studios in Massachusetts and just being like, I don't know, I'm very stubborn too, so I have to kind of also shed that and be able to give myself away, in the sense of like, I know it's a trade-off. Like if I'm working in a studio, I'm going to be learning, working in a studio, working with other artists, but that means I can't focus on myself as much. But that also means the skills I'm learning, I can translate to myself, you know? So it's definitely gonna be a trade-off of just working for someone after a long time. So
no, I'm in the exact same boat where I get out. I'm trying to answer that question for myself if I want to do that. Where it's like, it may be applicable skills that I'm learning in networking, you know, but it is also, regardless of anything, it's less time. Right. I'm able to work on my own career and my own aspirations. After my next question about her rolling with punches, she gives me an answer which I think is very revealing of her authenticity and kind of level of character. She talks about how she's had to learn a lot of lessons, specifically in regards to setting herself up for success. This topic deals a lot with her having to deal with not so great business situations, i.e. a videographer losing interview footage and releasing an interview a year after it being shot. So, apologies. And this one I think is great for anybody who's aspiring to become a businessman or artist, because of the lessons that you can glean from it. So you were talking a lot about kind of how you'll react to things and how you'll control your life and let go of control of some things and try and focus on controlling what you can control. So how do you feel like you've been rolling with punches recently in the past like year or so?
It's always 50-50, because some things it's like, you know, I'm not going to tolerate disrespect anymore after a certain level. And I think I was confused on, or maybe I didn't know my value or whatever on like what disrespect was, or like acknowledging the fact that somebody doesn't value me as much as they should, or like, you know, that's the biggest thing, is like, I don't know, also not worrying about like how I'm perceived anymore at the same time, where it's just like, you know what, a lot of people will call me a bitch, or say I'm intimidating when I'm just doing that. Like if you wouldn't say what you would say for a man, for example, if you wouldn't say that to a man, why would you say it to me, you know? And that's just one example, because there's been other circumstances. Like 2 years ago, somebody was trying to sell me something on the street and they saw somebody else that was walking by, but they chose to come up to me. I was like, what made you think that I would want to buy it? You know what I mean? Like that's just like being perceived, basically. I'm just like, I don't know, I have to make the boundaries clear, where it's like, another thing too with rolling with punches is like, did I set myself up for failure? So like that happens, this is happening right now, where somebody owes me a video, we had an agreement, I paid them, but they basically ghosted me at this point, because the edit that they gave me wasn't the best, or they just, I don't know, a lot of things with their life too. Yeah. But I set myself up for failure because I didn't put my contracts in place. I didn't make them sign a contract. I'm like, we have an agreement, but now they're disrespecting me. They're making me feel like I'm being betrayed, this and that. Yeah. And I feel like it's also my fault, because one, why did I pay them in full thinking that they would give me, I never worked with them before. Yeah. So I was like, I normally wouldn't do that either. So I'm just like, I think I did also set myself up. So that's, rolling with punches is definitely being like, giving myself the grace to make mistakes, but at the same time, like, this can't be getting old, basically. Like, I can't be making the same mistakes, because then it's just like, whose fault is it really? Yeah. So, I like the way you word that, like how maybe in some situations you set yourself up for failure, because I feel like that doesn't, like, setting yourself up for failure is different than you did something wrong, you know? And like in a situation like that where somebody else
doesn't follow through or isn't doing good business, you know? Yeah, I like that. But I completely get that part, especially with the contracts. I've been trying to learn over the past year to do contracts, you know, and do them better. ChatGPT helps me with a lot of the contracts.
I got LegalZoom. That's the thing too, is I have the resources, and I just like, I think I maybe get too excited that I forget there's steps to this, you know?
Yep.
And that's another thing in the past couple months is like figuring out my systems as an artist. So like my system for whenever I release a song, like I'm talking about the visuals and everything, like there's an order to everything, and like you can choose to embrace it or you can choose to go nowhere, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's where I'm at right now. So I think, I was like also in a kind of rush because it was a Valentine's Day song, and now I feel horrible because I had somebody rush their work on it on another visual. I had a double single for Hold On, I Fell for a Bum.
Yeah.
And now Hold On, like this is another example of kind of setting myself up, was I got Hold On mixed by the same person that mixed I Fell for a Bum, but they're two totally different genres, and they just were not comfortable in the Hold On is like a pop punk like alternative, and that means you have to deal with a lot of guitar, a lot of drum, a lot of like where does the vocals go, because some vocals are heavy, same with the drums and the guitar, and they just didn't know what they were doing. So like after a lot of back and forth, they're like, I gotta refund you for this song because we're going nowhere. And I was like, you know what, I could have probably a month ago been like, I should probably get this mixed by someone else, but I wanted to get it done, you know? So, and then why I say I feel horrible is I had somebody from Atlanta, she made a visual for Hold On, we did it, and I had her do it by the 14th because that's when I was releasing it, and now it's a month later and I still don't have the final mix. So it's like she did all this extra work when we actually have all the time in the world, you know? So I'm like this year I'm definitely rolling with the punches, because I'm like, I texted the guy that was working on the mix. I was like, well, that's the benefit of being a small artist, is one, nobody really cares about these little things, and then two, like they're little things. But if I was like SZA and I dropped the wrong song, people leak it everywhere and it would just be bad news. So I'm just like, at least with me, the way I see it is at least the new mixes I'm putting out are better than the last, so I'm doing everybody a favor by making better music. But it sucks that there's so many, you know, like potholes basically.
Before I ask this next question, let me check how long is with the timer. So when you talk about specifically like when stuff like that happens, maybe release the wrong song, XYZ happens, you know, there's less, it is a bit more freedom not being like a SZA, you know, like for now. Like now you have the time to have things like that happen without as big of a blowback, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it makes me more human in a sense where it's like I don't have the same team SZA has. I don't have a record label behind me taking care of these little details, you know? So it's definitely just like embracing like mistakes in the sense of like, oh, it didn't go, maybe not even mistakes, just like embracing things not going the way that they were intended to, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's like, even talking about it now, I'm reminding myself like I'm really just doing it with me, and like, I don't know how to put it, like the soft support of like two others, basically. That's my team. But I don't have the same support as all these other artists do. So I'm just like, you know what? It is what it is. I don't think I've messed up too badly, other than like getting dates, you know, not getting things not dropped on the dates intended and stuff like that. But that's really it. And like, that's the other thing, like when like leaning towards being more of a producer and artist on my end, mixing my own work and stuff, is so that these things can be avoided, you know? So it's like with the mixing and like the engineers, like I wouldn't need to talk to them because I would just do it myself. So like with all these songs that are coming out, most of these were recorded in the last 6 to 12 months. So starting June forward, like hopefully I don't need the studio set up, but hopefully by then, like I'll definitely be mixing and recording my own songs. I'm telling myself like after this month, April at the latest, definitely after this month, I don't see myself in April, like I'm not gonna pay for studio time anymore, because I'm like, I have everything I need. I'm just gonna be at home. Like when you asked about too, like the future and stuff, what's on my mind is like the next steps of me like setting up my streaming. I'm gonna be streaming Monday through Friday, and I'm still trying to figure out like the regimen exactly, but I do know like at least Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'll be producing beats. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I'll be writing songs to those beats.
Really? And I'll be streaming that?
I'll be live streaming it, because I'm just like fun. The process, you know, learning as we go. And then just trying, because I realized that too, because I'm a songwriter first. So I'm like, I definitely want to market and sell my songs more. So that's the only way of doing it, is like showing people that like, oh, there's actual work here. And this is the process. Oh, she can freestyle on anything. This is the process, you know?
So with you kind of moving into more of that role of producing and mixing yourself, you said that's because you would like to have more control with kind of like setting release times and schedules and everything like that.
Yeah, not having so many hurdles, because like it's also other people's time too. So it's just like with the engineers, like for example, the one that refunded me for Hold On, he's like, oh, we got to figure this out now because I'm going on a trip. I don't work on the weekends. I'm like, that's so respectable. Like, I'm not gonna slave you away. And that's the other thing is I can't have anybody slave away from me. I can slave away from myself, you know? So it's like coming back with the entrepreneurship thing. It's like, I don't want to go through these struggles anymore and like potentially burn bridges because expectations weren't met between two people, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like really, I could only be the bad guy if like something isn't done the way I want it to get done, you know?
Next, Sophialfa talks about what type of support system she has, as well as how she views support from friends and strangers in the context of her career. A big part of this section is also control as it relates to collaborating with people and giving up creative control with projects and things. This is something that I give my 2 cents on because of the difficulty that I have sometimes, and I'm sure a lot of other people also have, in giving up creative control in effort towards a collaboration with somebody. Yeah. So then, what does kind of support mean for you? Like, what do you look for with support systems? How do you view that?
Yeah, that's tricky for me because like in my head, for example, I've always been very supportive of others. Like I'll reshare people's posts, I'll reshare their videos, even if they don't ask for it, I'll be like, oh, like everybody, like I love seeing whenever like I have one specific friend that I'll post her a lot and she'll post me a lot, and a lot of my people are following her, and I'm like, I love to see that, like my people are following her, you know? And then I saw the other day like people that I know engaging with her posts, and I'm like, lit, like we're all one big family at that point. So I'm very much in my head like I would do it for them, but then when it doesn't get done for me, I do get a little bit salty or like bitter. This year I'm trying to lose a lot of my bitterness, and I think that's only because like again the expectations. So I'm just like I do a lot without expecting anything, but at the same time I'm like it wouldn't kill anybody to do the same, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like I'm not gonna beat down someone's house because they didn't repost my song, you know, or like listen to my song, because I'm also under the mentality of like, okay, 5 years from now, all the people that were avoiding posting me and doing this and that, they'll do it on their own whim because they'll realize like, oh, I wasn't supporting it then, why not? Because how do I put it, like the people that aren't supporting me now that I expect them to, I do know that they're going to 5 years from now when I'm up, because they're gonna bandwagon basically, I guess is the best word.
Yeah. And
I don't see it as like it's a sad thing, but it's not gonna be bad at the end of the day because it's like at least they came around, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm also like not trying to again suffocate or force anybody to follow me, because then I feel like that would just push people away. So support, it comes in different ways. It's definitely free, or not sometimes, but yeah, for me like my biggest support system is my mom and my mans. So that's just like taking a weight off my shoulder of like, oh, I need assistance with this. That's my support. Like I can, because I'm very again stubborn and like I don't know, I try not to be one-minded, meaning like only I can do it.
Yeah. But
like I've always grown up being like, why ask somebody to do something when I can do it myself or do it better, you know what I'm saying? Like if I had a communication problem, so it's just like from point A to point C, I forget to tell people what point B is, so that's also my fault.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, that was my biggest thing, is like, why ask somebody else to do something that I can do, but then it doesn't get done because I have 50 other things to do, you know?
So my thought with that is, I've always been a very similar route of like, I would like to control like everything in relation to my career, you know? And I've had difficulty walking the line between me having control and then me kind of losing control, losing quality, all that by trying to do everything myself. Have you run into that, or like how did you deal with that throughout the years?
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I do support engineers, why I do support people making album art and this and that, and photographers and everything, because I really can't do everything by myself. I know I can, like I have the skill set, and that's the other thing about like job searching and everything. I'm like I have the skills to do a lot of different jobs because of like backing my career basically. Like I've already known how to do social media management, designing like with Canva, and just like appealing to an audience basically. So like if I was a brand manager or something. But that's the thing, is the quality control is like, I'm not going to engineer my songs right now because I'm not going to end up with the results I want. And like that's the other thing with the music and stuff, is I'm comfortable with, for example, I have one close friend and he was telling me that I'm very like, I have a picky taste or something like this. Like he wasn't sure about working with me again because I asked for so much. He's like, other artists I work with, they're just happy with what I give them basically. Like they don't say more. And I'm like, if you're trying to come at me for having a taste, like we can't work together because like I seek a certain level of quality, you know? So of course I'm going to ask you to move this by a second or do that 3 more times. Like it's just, and I do feel confident in like the music that I am releasing because I know it's radio ready, and it's like it can compete with anybody else's song on any other platform, you know? And so yeah, that was like kind of crazy to me. I'm like, how are you gonna beat me down for having a taste? Like what are we doing here? Like every artist of course has their own expectations and their own requirements for their music, for their work, you know? So that's the biggest thing, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of like an age-old thing I see for any type of like production mixing with artist work. I've seen so many producers, videographers, editors, all that. Well, I wouldn't even say it's that. It's kind of like client and whoever, like person providing a service, of like when client asks for more because of like expectations aren't met or it could be better, you know? Right. I feel like I always see so many people complaining about that or being upset when people ask for that, when it's like, I feel like that's the difference between a product and like a collaboration, you know?
Right.
Like how can you ask somebody to not be invested in a product that they're releasing
or that they're funding to? Like,
yeah, exactly.
With this, the guy that with the Hold On mix, like I even told him like, let me know how I can tip you, because it was a lot of trouble, like just getting. And at the end of it, he never even acknowledged me saying like the tipping part, because I think he also, at the end of everything, he said this isn't my genre. So he also probably knew like maybe, I think we were both in the same boat of like maybe we shouldn't have accepted this project between us two.
Yeah, learning.
And so now I'm like, with the product and the service versus like client, like we're all people, like we can communicate. That's my biggest thing too, is just communicate. Like that's the issue I'm having with the guy that's basically ghosted me over the music video for I Fell for a Bum, is they're not communicating with me at all. Like it's just as simple as a text letting me know what's good, and I would be fine. That's fine. I'm at peace, you know? But again, I don't know, like some people have called me intimidating, and I think that has affected a lot of my relationships, where it's just like maybe they think they have to be a certain someone to like, you know, interact with me a certain way. But I'm just like, man, I paid you money, just give me the work. Like it's literally just a job, you know? So it's very much like, obviously money speaks. So it's like, if that's what I need to give you to give me my, you know, if I have to give you more chops to give me the money, I mean the meat, I don't know, like it's just, it's so simple. And like people just, I don't know, again, like the burning bridges, I'm like, we're burning bridges because we're not talking, or expectations aren't being clear, and just it sucks.
I think a factor to that might be that in this kind of artistic realm, so how many people get into this because they love it? It's a way of expressing themselves, it's a way of hanging out with friends, sharing art, sharing emotions, and that might not always, especially at the start, be related to business entrepreneurship. I don't know if I said that word right, but that realm of things, where one side is very professional and there's business expectations between client and, don't know what the other word is, client and like service provider, you know? And then on the art side of things, so much more to lose. How many people started just getting high and freestyling, you know, where it's not those type of expectations? And from what you've spoken to me about, and from how we've interacted, you have a very professional, like business minded attitude towards this, that's something I've tried to learn. You know, I'm trying like to get to your level with it, because that's where success comes in.
Yeah.
You know, at least in my mind. And I feel like in this artistic realm, a lot of people might be intimidated by the fact that they're dealing with a professional, when it might be they've only had the unprofessional art side of things, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I was on Threads and I saw someone post about like someone DM'd them and they're like, oh, you're too like to work, and I think the person that the poster was like, the original poster was like, yeah, and then the person that reached out to the original poster was like, oh, you're too like successful for me to work with, like I'm intimidated or something. And then they're asking like, how do you respond to that, like somebody telling them they can't work with you because you're too up there? It's just like, what? Like, I know, the logic is crazy. But I was glad I saw that, because I was like, this is real life. Like, some people feel that way, and that's you blocking your blessings. Is feeling like, oh, I don't match up to them, or this and that. Like, you miss all the shots you don't take. I think somebody responded that they're like, Wayne Gretzky. Like, just say Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And to me that was insane. But that's a really good way of putting it. And that reminds me too, like with this work, with the artistry stuff, like my friends are also my like associates, I guess, so it gets blurry sometimes, but I always make sure I take care of people. Like, I have a photographer in LA who I consider a friend, and he's never charged me, he's never even asked me for money, but Christmas came around, his birthday came around, I Venmo'd him cash, like some, you know, because I'm like, you're still my friend, but you also deserve your money, because you work for me for like asking for nothing, you know. I'm like, that's such a beautiful thing, but it's also, they need to make a living. Like, I can't ask them to do this and that for so long without also, like, that's me acknowledging like you have a value, and I want to keep you around because I value the work you do, and I also value your friendship. So it's definitely it gets blurry, because like I'm also like that engineer that I was talking about that said I have like a particular taste. I'm taking a break from them this year, because that's like a friend from home, like longtime friend, but at the same time I'm like, this isn't working. Like, I feel disrespected, I feel undervalued, this and that. How many blows will I take until I realize like I gotta step away, you know? And I think I can also step back in. I think that's the beauty of being able to be mature about things, is like, you know, this isn't working right now, but maybe in a year or two we can come back and like talk about it and be better, you know?
In regards to talking about professionalism and kind of the business side of art, and then also relating back to earlier when you said you got denied from a few jobs because of your social media presence, the employers looking at it saying, is this person a model? What are they focused on? Will they not be focused on the job? And then also our last interview talked a lot about like being... The next topic that comes up is about Sophialfa being a woman in the music industry, especially the underground scene, where there's like a lot less eyes and public scrutiny. So that leads into bad interactions that she's had with dudes, or business collaborations, people DMing her crazy, business connections reaching out only to hit on her or try and get with her or something, which I think is good for everyone to listen to, just because of the insight that you've probably never heard before. Being a woman in hip hop, you know, in the underground scene. So how has that kind of... I remember last time you were the first woman I had interviewed on this show.
Has that changed? Has there been any?
Yeah, it has.
Good.
How do you experience that, especially as you've moved more into the building the like entrepreneur side of it back up, you know? How is that? Has that changed?
Well, like I said earlier, and I see this, it's not even just me, that's the crazy, but that's the more annoying part. Like the people I work with too, that are kind of entering the music realm too, they're like, how is it that every female story is the same, you know? And that's like the part that really messes me up, where it's like, it's not just me. I promise you, like anything I tell you, there's at least a line of girls behind me saying, me too, literally the Me Too movement. Anyways, like for example, I said earlier, like if you wouldn't say it to a man, don't say it to me. I got that from her name's, I don't want to say it wrong, I know it's not Scotty, yes, it must be Scotty, but she said on her story, and like she's a rapper, very talented, very cool, but she's also like, I'm gonna say it, she's built like ideal body, ideal everything, and of course she has fans that are like supporting her art, but there's also people under her, like whatever the thing about so somebody asked me about like girls and big boobs and like do they maneuver different, because I'm like, yes, because when you have big boobs, you could wear a basic shirt and it gets over sexualized just because you have a big chest, you know. So they even make like contraptions so you can like cover your cleavage to be like professional and stuff. And so that's how I see it with her, is like she's dancing to her song, doing stuff that she should do to promote her music, and here's people like just like taking it the completely wrong way. And
Yeah.
it's just, that's how she looks. What is she gonna do about it, you know? And so she posted that, where it's like, if you wouldn't say it to a dude, don't DM me like, hey baby, like, you're beautiful, this and that, I want to work. She said that's the fastest way to lose an opportunity to work with her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, period, like, set the record straight. Like, if you want to work, then it's about work, because that's definitely happened to me too. And with the whole maturing and everything, is like really having a better meter or tolerance for like the BS, you know? So there's definitely been men that hit me up like, oh, your music's great, this and that. But I bet you they never even listened to a song or like streamed my music, but they're just trying to get my attention.
Yeah.
And like this one time I met with an A&R in New York, and I played him a lot of my songs. He was like, you have an amazing voice. He literally saved my contact as Sophie with the great voice, something like that. And he told me a few days after I like, you know, previewed him a lot of my songs, he's like, oh yeah, I can't work with you because you're too easy to fall in love with. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's weird.
Why did you waste my time like that then? And like, yeah, I don't know. I think the only thing that's changed is like my tolerance for stuff, and like, you can't really change people, but you can definitely change how they treat you in the terms of like what you will tolerate and what you won't.
Yeah.
And so I think I've been pretty good. I mean, there's actually, yeah, it happens a lot. Like there's this one guy in my DMs that he playlists me a lot for like Spotify and stuff, which has helped my monthly listeners.
What do you mean he playlists you?
Like they have a playlist, kind of, I don't know, I'll call it like a wheelhouse of playlists with a lot of followers. And so they'll like, you know, they'll ask me if I want to put this song. And I'll be like, yeah. And then every like once or twice a month, he'll ask me like, oh, are you still with your man?
Ew.
Are you single? I'm like, what does that have to do with what
Yeah.
we're doing? Like, what, that doesn't have to do anything with the music. Like, it's so annoying. I'm like, what's the point? And he asked me, he's like, oh, I have a beat for you. Can I send it to you? And then followed by, are you still in a relationship?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Those two, they don't matter. It literally doesn't matter. Like, the biggest thing is like the people that try to get in people's DMs, they never even have a chance to get with that person. So it's just like, why approach them that way? You'd be so much better off trying to start with a business, you know, approach. And then obviously it'd be just as foul approaching someone for one thing and then the ulterior motive is the other. But that's what it feels like a lot.
Yeah. I don't get how people don't just keep the two separate. That goes right back to professionalism. Like we are in a business, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy because the person I was telling you about asking about my marital status, his Instagram is literally like business ethics, and I'm like, if you ask me one more time, I'm gonna say something about like just call him out. And I'm like, how dumb are you? Like, this is so against what like you're marketing yourself as, you know?
Yeah.
And it's really like, I can't even speak to it. It's probably so many different people that can be exposed so easily for that behavior.
Yeah.
But we have to like, just, you know, it's better, it's unprofessional if you share those DMs or if you expose people. So it's just like, you know, keep it to yourself. It's crazy.
You mentioned to me in preparation for this interview while we were texting that you're the first female artist that a lot of people have worked with.
Yeah, so I was, let's say for a videographer, I was shooting a video that's gonna come out at the end of the year. He told me, he was like, what did he say? He prefaced it in a way that I was like, I already know what you're gonna say, and it was that you're the first girl I filmed with, and I was like, I already knew you were gonna say it because like 3 out of 4 people always tell me that, and that's another thing with like the whole me becoming more, I guess the word is independent with like the production and the mixing is, for example, when I first started making music, I could tell when people only worked with rappers and not singers because they didn't know how to work with my voice, or just stuff like that, where it's just like, I don't want to be the first because then the work isn't like up to par. Or like some people like market, there was a thing I saw, like, don't overvalue yourself in the sense of like, you know, don't ask for somebody to spend $300 when the service is really worth $100 and they're going to feel like it's only worth $100.
Yeah.
They're never going to come back because you overvalued yourself. So it's just like, I don't know, that another part with that is like, I'm so down for collaborations. Like with you, we talked about it, like you haven't worked in a certain way with video, and it was like, okay, it'd be like, I'm actually doing this with another videographer that he wants to do a fully drone video, so he's not charging me. And so because it's something new for him, and like with music and stuff too, and it was prefaced that way, so I'm gonna take it that way, you know.
Yeah.
Versus with people like, oh, I'm uncomfortable because I never worked with a female before,
Yeah.
and you're my first, but I'm still gonna charge you full price and then give you like hot shit basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it doesn't, like, for me, it doesn't matter, the gender thing. It's just like, and it was definitely good, the experience that I'm talking about with the last person that told me that. It was a good experience, and they told me like, I'm gonna use the footage that we just did as promo to get more female, like,
Yeah.
you know, models, I guess, under their belt. And I meant to say this a few minutes ago because it reminded me of, I don't know, with the professionalism and stuff, and like being in Hawaii too. The biggest thing it's trained me on Hawaii is like the reputation, like having a good reputation. And then like, because with this whole artistry stuff too, it's definitely word of mouth of like, oh, have you worked with this person?
Yep.
Did you like their work? Did they overcharge you? This and that. And that's how I feel with like the person that hasn't communicated with me and that owes me the video still. I'm gonna badmouth them to anybody I can.
Yeah.
Because that was my experience, and they could have salvaged that, and I've given them multiple opportunities to, but it still isn't, you know, appropriate. And so this artist too, or this videographer too, he was like, hopefully now people will see that I've worked with you and they'll want to work with me more. I'm like, yeah, that's a beautiful thing. That's a good goal. And I definitely had a good experience because there's other videographers that on Island that like, I don't know, they want something in exchange. Like one of my friends had that experience with one guy, and because she was like, oh, I can't pay the full, like they were charging 800, and she's like, I can't pay. And then he was like, oh, well, I'll give you a little off if like maybe we can go on a date or something. I'm like, that's just weird. That's just weird. And she was not interested, and she was in a committed relationship, so it's just like, no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like making any, especially when it comes to the word of mouth and all of that, you're right. Hawaii, especially with how small the community is and tight knit, it spreads like wildfire.
Yeah, but it's still beyond me. Like, there's some people, like, in the nightlife entertainment industry that, like, they're just bad news, but they continue to get work with people. And I'm like, the people that are working with you talk bad about you all day, and they still choose. Like, what does that say about them? You know, the people that continuously work with these people that let them down. Yeah. So I'm like, that's something I can't do either, is, like, supporting, like, there's so many lyrics and so many sayings of, like, you know, closed doors, don't open them again, basically. And just, like, yeah. It's tough though, because especially here, like I mentioned burning bridges earlier, like there's some people raised on like, don't burn bridges because you never know when you'll need them, but still that's tolerating endless amounts of disrespect. Yeah. It's just like at that point it's not even worth it, you know?
I feel like that's kind of remnants from a past generation where it's kind of more acceptable now, especially with social media, how much more we're able to do grassroots, to where you don't need, so it's more acceptable and more okay and safer to be able to burn bridges that need to be burned, you know?
Yeah, I'm definitely in that period of life where it's like there's literally 7 billion. Granted, maybe, I don't know how many of them are babies or kids, but it's like there's just so many people in this world where it's like, if one person does you dirty, then just move on, honestly. And that's why I'm also trying to drop the bitterness, is like me ending a relationship with somebody that was toxic and maybe taking advantage of me, and ending it will only lead to more relationships that are going to suit me and nurture me and give me a better outlook, you know? Yeah. Versus like tagging along or keeping this one toxic person. It's just so much better to just move on. So. Yeah.
So when it comes to situations like that, or just in regards to that type of conversation, the next section is smaller. It's just kind of interesting. I ask about her experience with receiving hate in the form of like Instagram comments or anything like that, both from randoms and from fans of other people that she's worked with. So this is a shorter section, but it's a good one. Have you seen, or have you kind of like felt, or have you ever had to react to any type of blowback or any type of like hate or anything like that as an artist, or just negativity in general?
Yeah, it's recent, as of recent, because I uploaded a song with this artist called Musicologo the Libro, and he has a following. He has like 3 million followers on Instagram, 100,000 on like, you know, YouTube, all the other ones, and they're Dominican followers, and so I'm half Dominican, and so the Dominican community is very much like aggressive, blunt, and too real, almost, like, you know, they don't have a filter. And so I've definitely gotten a lot of responses from strangers that I'll never meet, like saying, like, the worst that they were saying is that I'm old and that I have manly arms, or that I look like a man, or I look like Shrek or something. And I'm like, okay, well, Shrek is a Taurus, so of course, you know, like I don't get offended, because like these are people that, again, I'll never meet, and two, they don't know my situation. I don't want to sound horrible, but like I do know I'm better off than they are, so like it's literally just hate. So then, and jealousy probably at the end of the day. And I'm just like, and what about it? Like, I'm gonna keep doing me. I got to be with your favorite artist and you're mad at it, like, you know? So definitely the hate is like, I think anybody that's like on what we're doing will say the same thing, where it's like, okay, keep adding negative comments, keep saying this and that, because you're helping my algorithm, you know, you're helping my engagement. So it's just like, and it was crazy because my mom, my cousins, they were all like, don't read the comments. I'm like, I didn't even get a chance to read the comments. Like, there was just a lot going on. So I was like, and even if I did, again, the worst that they were saying was that I'm old. And I'm like, that doesn't even hold water, because I'm not even close to 25. You know, I guess I'm close to 25. But I'm not even 25 yet. So I'm like, if 23 is old, like, what are we doing? And the people that were commenting that too, they were like in their 30s with like 3 kids. And I'm like, bruh, it don't hold water, like what they're trying to say. So it's literally just whatever.
Yeah. Have you ever had to deal with that? So I'm sure that was a lot of like his audience that was kind of like stuck in their ways, you know. A lot of people are like that when they're bandwagoning on someone and then something new pops up. Have you ever had to deal with more like randoms popping up on your shit? Because people always talk about hate and shit, but like I feel like at my level, I've never really had any hate, you know, just because, you know, it's like, it's not bandwagoning yet against me. Yeah,
it's interesting. Like, some people have like the confidence of like, you know, I don't know, a king on the internet. So like they'll think that they'll think that somebody actually cares about what they're commenting. And like, even me, I've been caught up sometimes commenting, like, because I know I'm just another comment in like a wave of, you know, thousands, whatever. Like, for example, I commented on this one artist's video where she was vaping at the beginning of it, and I was like, girl, quit vaping, you're not even 21 yet, and you're a singer. And it got like 100 likes, and people were like commenting like, oh, don't tell her how to live her life, like this and that. And I forget, on other things I've commented before, and people like commenting back trying to hate, and I'm like, I try to comment to mention them again, it doesn't even allow you to mention them. So I'm like, that's a setting they set. So I'm like, okay, that's a troll. Like, if you can't even rebuttal, like, that's a troll. And then 2, I'm like, yeah, I don't need to tell her how to live her life, but she's also like, I also commented under that because somebody said like facts, and I was like, if it were me, I wouldn't be posting that, that's all, you know. And that's it. That's like all the only reason why I said it. I'm like, you're not even 21 yet, and you shouldn't be vaping, period. Like, I don't know,
not a good habit.
Like I said, again, not something I would be promoting, so that's why I commented. But yeah, at this point too, with commenting and stuff, I'm like, I mean, I can say 98% of my comments are positive or emojis or whatever, but it definitely brings you more attention too if you comment. So I do that to get people to my page as well. So like, if you say the more out of pocket things, then the more people will probably check the page. So yeah, that's like the age old, is there such a thing as bad publicity, you know? Right. Yeah, that people at this time I don't think there is anymore. I mean, unless you're like Israel or something. About to shut off. But yeah, well, I'll just stop it right there because I think it was pretty close. We go on to talk a lot about influences on our mental state, i.e. drugs and alcohol, specifically how it influences our ability to work, focus, and be present in life. We touch on addiction, mental health, self-medication, attention issues, and also diet at the end. I feel like Sophialfa holds a view of drugs and alcohol for artists that a lot of people might not necessarily hold, as people who are actively creating art, music, whatever it may be. So let me know if you agree, disagree, how you feel, what you think about it below in the comments. Had to change the batteries, you know, like always. One dies and we just reset it, keep rolling. So one of the things that was interesting to me was that you brought up before the interview was your stance on drugs and alcohol. Now, this is a hot topic for a lot of artists, you know. Yeah, that's so true when you say it's hot topic. Because I'm thinking like some artists think that they can't function or record without a certain whatever it is, whatever the vice is. To me, it's important to talk about because I'm definitely, again, I feel like I've said this a lot of times, but I'm like on the other end of it where like I haven't smoked marijuana in over a month, and then that's mostly because of like my voice. Like I want to preserve my vocal cords, whatever it is, my throat. And like definitely sometimes smoking, I'd be like, dang, it just like burned. Like, so, and then there's been times too, like I'll smoke before I've recorded, and I'm like, I would have benefited so much more had I not done that, maybe after. And I've definitely like played around with my methods of when and where. Like for example, stop smoking, then I got back to it because it's just like, and with alcohol too, weed and alcohol, I don't know about other things personally, but it's just like they're just very easily accessible. Like I did a study abroad for 3 months and I thought I wouldn't smoke for 3 months, but here I wasn't, South Africa, Argentina, and Spain, chiefing it up. Like, no issue. It was so easy to find. And yeah, that's my biggest thing too, like with marijuana, like things that just don't align for you. I was reading stuff, it's like if something doesn't align, then nothing will happen, and that's because it's just not supposed to be. And that's how I feel with weed, is like every time I smoked it, something would go wrong. Like I got my phone stolen in Barcelona because I got tricked into rolling like a blunt basically.
Yeah.
And as I was rolling it, they just and left with my stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, if I hadn't been smoking at that point, I wouldn't have fallen for that little trick, you know. And just other things, like I've lost very expensive things because I was not worried about it because I was high, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that sucks. Like I've had so many negatives associated with a drug, and I'm just like, well, you know, maybe it's not for the best. And so I stopped. And I definitely still like to get high, so I do edibles, I'll admit, but that's like once a month now. And I don't even have any, so I'm just like, I don't even know when I'll get high again.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest thing, is just like, again, with the whole maturing too, it's just like, maybe I don't need this, maybe it doesn't serve me, maybe I'm better sober. I always preferred sobriety, but now I'm really, you know, living up to that truth, I guess.
Yeah.
And like same with alcohol, like after this month I don't want to drink like more intentionally. I want to go at least 3 months without a drink, because it's so easy to be like, when you're out, like, oh, I'll just have a little. And for me, it's like, those are empty calories, where it's just like sugar, and like, unless they're shots, like go for it, like tequila, vodka. I think that's safe, like especially if you're working out and stuff, like those are the things you stick to if you still want to have a good time, you know, or whatever. But yeah, I'm just trying to avoid all of that, because I want a more clear mind and just like be more conscious about the decisions I'm making.
Yeah.
And like that also goes in with the weed and stuff, because that's like my one thing, or it used to be my one thing, where it's like it's innocent, but it's also not, in the sense of like with work and stuff, if I smoke, then I lose kind of my boundaries, where I'm not as rigid as like, I'm just like, oh, I let things slide, and I let things get a little unprofessional.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I don't know, I don't want to bash anybody, but if I've ever worked with someone and we're smoking, like a lot gets lost, or a lot doesn't get done because time was lost because we were smoking, or decisions were made because we were too high, and like, you know, like just little mistakes like that. And I'm just like, I can't afford that anymore, you know. So,
and this might go back to earlier in the conversation at the beginning of the interview, when you said that, I forget at what age you said, like 22 was it, when you said, all right, maybe it's time for me to stop letting myself act my age.
Yeah.
But when did you kind of start cutting back?
Definitely, yeah. I turned 23 in April of last year. So I definitely you know, age is just a number, yeah, but for me it's also like a standard, where it's like, for example, if you're 30 and you still haven't had a job in X amount of months or years, and like you're still trying to figure out life, I'm like, it's kind of, you can start over at any time, whatever, but at the same time, like, you have to have at least something under your belt at that age, you know. So that's how I see it with like,
yeah, time is limited.
It is limited, right? So I'm just like, when I graduated college, I was like, okay, I didn't feel like I got like a, you know, average college experience of like all the partying and stuff, because I was just thinking about this too. I'm like, I really don't like to go out. Like there's some people, that's their thing, like they go out every weekend, they drink, they have fun with their friends. That's not what I do for fun with my friends, you know.
Yeah. So
it's just always been different. So I think I would say like 22, after like turning 23, I was like, okay, a new chapter has begun, where it's like, I have to be more serious, or else I'm gonna turn into the people I bash, which is get nowhere.
Yeah. How long have you been on Adderall?
Since 2022, April 2022, something like that. That's the doctor had to look for it, because I was like, we were talking about this earlier with like in Hawaii, there's no concept of time. Yeah. And I'm definitely like comfortable. I'm big on being an advocate for things like, you know, we shouldn't hide what we need, like, you know, rely on, or what we do, what makes us, because for example, I have a friend that they don't feel like they have the confidence to make like content around gym because they don't have their dream body. And when I tell you, this person is cut, like works out every day, I'm like, the confidence doesn't matter. Like, you should document your journey to your dream body. And I'm like, first of all, it's crazy that you're, you know, you even have a dream body when your body's the dream of everybody else, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So yeah, I definitely like want to be or feel like it's important for me to be an advocate for like the Latinas, for like the queer, for like the neurodivergent, you know. So yeah, definitely comfortable talking about it. And yeah, that's 2 years now that I was actually like properly, because I was definitely self-diagnosed. Like after high school, I was like, it's just getting really, really hard for me to, like, if I don't have a schedule, if I don't have a routine, I don't get anything done. And like the moving around and all that really messed up with me having routine. So it's just been really difficult for me to like leverage my feelings and what I need to do and what I want to do. So then I finally like found a psychiatrist, and here in Hawaii, like bless Hawaii, like medical, because dermatology needs, mental needs, health needs were always like catered to, versus in Massachusetts I had to like really fight for what I needed, and even then I didn't get it. So it was very just, I was very distraught in what I needed to. I didn't know what was good for me because I wasn't allowed to have what was good for me. So now that I was in Hawaii, like I found a psychiatrist, and he immediately diagnosed me with like inattention and ADD. And then even like when I'm working with friends who are also professionals, they'll tell me, like, they'll look at me and they're like, yeah, you got ADD. And I'm like, tell me something I don't know. Like, damn, that you noticed it. Like, fuck. But at the same time, like, I know, and it's something that I can't say I work on, but it's more something that like I need to use as a superpower too, because I've always been really good at multitasking, at like handling. I'm really good under pressure, like this and that. But those are also struggles that like I think I romanticized, you know. So it's just like now that I actually have like and I don't rely on the Adderall at all. That's also the problem, where it's like, for example, I brought maybe 6 pills with me to last me 2 months, and then I haven't used any other than today. I finally got like a short release versus long release. Yeah. And I noticed if I don't use Adderall, like intentionally don't use it for weeks, by the 3rd week part, or how do you say it? Point, mark, both words. I can't do anything. I'm restless, or I sleep too much. I don't want to do anything. I can't work on anything. Things that I want to work on, I just dismiss. I just like the days just like so easily escape me, versus if I maybe take it once a week and like moderate myself. Yeah. I work so much better than like just restricting myself, you know, from that, because it is addictive, and it does inhibit you eventually. Like, I don't believe in giving kids Adderall because like they're still developing. Yeah. And I saw something about like coffee actually helps people with Adderall, like just to calm down and stuff. It's crazy. And that's also how I knew I had it. Like, I've coffee, other things I don't want to mention, I did, and I was just like, it doesn't affect me. And like other people would be like, oh yeah, it feels so good. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. It's because I already had something, you know. So definitely it's a journey with medicine and stuff. And like, even when I first started, the doctor gave me 3 pills of Adderall, and then they prescribed me Ritalin, which are 2 totally different things. Don't like Ritalin. I do like Adderall. And now I was always doing long release, which like lasts like 8 hours. And now I'm doing, I got more prescribed for short release. So that's like 2 to 5 hours. Because I also had the problem where it's like, okay, I have to take the long release in the morning, or else I'll stay up, or I'll like not feel good at the end of the day. Yeah. Versus, and then I wouldn't take it at all. So then days would pass that I'm not taking it when I probably should have. And now I have the option of like, okay, it's 2 p.m. and I still haven't done what I need to do. Short release, focus, and then, you know, not feel bad.
Yeah, the only reason I ask about that is because, so you said around 22 is when you stopped smoking. And in
last month, a month ago.
Started cutting back, kind of.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I would say it's always been around me, like from high school on, but I didn't actually start engaging in it until like 17. And then I started slowing down again. Yeah, around 22, I guess. Like, I always knew too, like from the inception, where it's like, I know I'm gonna outgrow this, you know, this isn't a forever thing. I've never really liked drugs or alcohol. Like, I never, not liked, but never cared for them. So I'm also very, I think, fortunate in that sense, where it's like, I know people struggle with addiction. It's a real thing, and there's just sometimes you can't fight it. And like, that's how I feel with my brain and ADD. It's just like, sometimes I just can't explain things, and it's because it's just not how I'm programmed. But like, I have to go an extra mile to do something that maybe somebody else wouldn't, you know. And I bring that up because I know a lot of people will like self-medicate with those things. Do you think there was any correlation between you getting on Adderall to like also slowing down smoking, or is it both of those stemmed from something else? Yeah, that's a good question actually, because I would say where I messed up with smoking, my relationship with weed, is I'm a strict sativa girl, and I think it's also because of that. Like, I know people with ADHD, I don't know, they prefer indica because their mind is always racing and it slows them down a bit. For me, I can't. Like, indica just gives me the craziest munchies. I gain weight. I just fall asleep. Like, my day would end at 5 p.m. So I messed up because I stopped really caring about what I was smoking, what I was putting in my body. I was just like, oh, cool, you're passing me a joint, I'm gonna smoke it. You're giving me free weed, I'm gonna smoke it, you know? And so that's where personally I was like, okay, when I was very conscious about only smoking sativa, because in the past, like, there's this one, I only got it one time, in Massachusetts. It's called Clementine, and it's 100% sativa, I think. And it made me feel like I was on Adderall, like in the best way. Like I smoked it, and I just wanted to get everything done. My priorities were right, everything, and I was high, so it was great. But yeah, I definitely can constitute it as like something. I think if I was on that strain consistently, then I wouldn't do Adderall. But now I'm just like, I don't need anything else other than my water and maybe the Adderall once a week. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wouldn't know because, you know, I'm in the military and I've never smoked ever, but...
Yeah, with self-medicating too, like, dang, that dates back for everything. Like, for example, I had glasses in middle school and one of my girlfriends offered me contacts. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to wear contacts. I mean, I don't want to wear glasses no more. And I was wearing her contacts and it actually made my vision worse because her vision was worse than mine. So my eyes went down to that. And I knew that. I was like, that's the risk I'm willing to accept just for whatever. And it's the same thing with, like, medicine. Like, it's a reason why it's prescribed. Like, I personally have never sold any of my pills. Like, I know that's not, even now, like, I have 90 count short release and I have 60 count long release. That's a lot of pills, but it's because it's supposed to last me until whoever knows when. But I don't sell it because I'm like, that's for me, it works for me, I need them, you know, or I need them. But I definitely believe too, like, weed is medicine in itself, and everything can be abused. So it's just like finding that balance. Like, shoot, they even had coke for medicine for like coughs and stuff back in the day, but then of course that got taken advantage of and like things got messed up, so things had to change. But yeah, again, it's a journey, finding what strain works for you, finding a routine that works for you. Because for example, when I first moved back to Island and I wasn't in dorms at school, like I had my own apartment and stuff, I was smoking. Like, I went from smoking once a day, maybe 3 times a week, to smoking once every day because I got a bong. So like I got a enabler basically. Yeah. And then I was smoking consistently, from like sometimes to consistently to now never. And it's just like, that's a process, you know. Yeah. And I definitely wasn't a good happy, like, okay, I only smoked after school, I smoked before writing a song, whatever it was, creativity, whatever, being intentional about it. But now I'm just like, you know, I can recall the feeling at this point. Like, that's another thing with like wellness too, with like eating and diet. I'm just like, I'm avoiding specific things. So I'm like, I already know how they taste. Like donuts, I don't eat donuts because I know how they make me feel and I know how they taste, so I don't need to buy more donuts. And like same with weed, I'm like, I've had so many negative things around it that I'm like, I don't want to open that portal again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it took me too long to sort of begin to even start realizing the connection of my physical health to my mental health and to also my like social health and then career health, you know, to how they all relate. How if I'm eating the wrong foods, like I try to limit my sugar as much as possible, because eventually, I don't know at what point I just realized, I was like, damn, I feel sluggish as hell when I eat a lot of sugary shit, and that affects my productivity, you know, everything.
I knock out bad. Too much sugar. But yeah, that's true too. That's the this year too, like with 2024, I immediately view this year differently for a few reasons. One of them is it's the number 8, so you do 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 equals 8, and that's my life path number, which is like my birthday added up together. And then it's the year of the dragon, 2000, every 12 years, so 2000, 2012, and 2024 and beyond, whatever, every 12 years is the year of the dragon, which for me is just like an ego boost. And I'm just like, this is the year where I really need to, like, everything that I've been planting, I need it to come out of the concrete, or like this is not, and that only come beginning with me, the change, you know. And so like I have gym memberships, I've been going to the gym a lot, and that's just like one part of one brick out of the foundation, you know. So the next step for me is definitely like meal planning, having meal prep, so I don't have to think about what I'm eating, so I don't eat out of like impulsivity and like stuff like that. So just like definitely the mindset's changing, everything's changing, and I just feel like, again, the big word is like maturing. So, like having the maturity and self-discipline of being like, I can't eat this because I know how it makes me feel. I can't smoke this because I know what it makes me do, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that meal planning is a big one for me and my fiance, especially when it comes to spending money, eating out and stuff. Yeah. Well, yeah, that we had to learn. Grocery shopping.
I can spend so much money on food, and that's my thing too at grocery shopping. I used to shop at Costco for one person, so imagine how much food I was wasting, and it was just because I had a Costco membership. And so now I'm wiser with, like, if I buy groceries, I only buy enough produce for like 5 days or for whatever meal prep it is, because I waste so much food, and that's like one of my like pillars is not wasting food. And so like that just kills me, like wasting or letting it go to, you know, expire and stuff. I just
that was my thing too. At first I would try to buy like 2 weeks of meals, and then like at the end of it, I'm like, oh fuck, look at all this produce that I wasted, you know.
Yep.
And then I have to buy it again anyways, and
yeah,
it's
humbling.
Yeah, it definitely is.
What else was there?
So next we talk about the situation of her going back to Massachusetts, and specifically the music scene there. So that leads us to talking about Sophialfa's views on collaboration and constructive criticism as brought up through her experiences in Hawaii versus Massachusetts, because that's how I kind of start the conversation, is the difference in the music scenes. Going back to Massachusetts, what is the music scene like there compared to Hawaii?
That's a good question. I would say similar, but in the sense of like, you know who's in it. Like, it's a small community. There's definitely a lot of artists that more mainstream than Hawaii, I would say, that made it out. And then it's always like a surprise that they're like, you look into them and they're like, oh, they're from Boston, or they're from Massachusetts. What the heck? That's such a random state, you know? Same thing for Hawaii. Like, that's such a random state. Who was it that, I guess like Bretman Rock, for example, he just got like commemorated for his like positivity for Filipinos and Hawaiians. Like, just, he puts a lot of positivity in the world. I think very well deserved, but it's also super random, where it's like, oh, this big influencer that's like known for this and that is also from Hawaii. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, I saw the UH. Oh fuck, I forget what the department was called, but shout out Dank, because he's at UH. They interviewed him a while ago.
Nice.
Yeah, it's weird though. It's people you won't expect from weird places.
Yeah, exactly. That's like with Boston too. That's the weirdest thing. That's like, I don't know. I feel like the mindset's very competitive. I wouldn't say that for here. I can't really say anymore because I've kind of been removed from it. But I would say I had more opportunities to showcase that I was an artist here than in Massachusetts. Granted, I've definitely spent more time as an artist in Hawaii than Massachusetts. Or like I was telling him earlier that like I'm excited to go back home because that's where I started making music. And so like now I'm 3 years really into it, and like I have a following. I have fans, I guess. Mostly my friends are fans, so that's nice. Real. But yeah, I actually have something that means something, versus when I was just like starting, I felt like kind of a pebble. Now I feel more like a rock. And then I'm turning into a boulder. And so, but yeah, definitely like just more closed off, I would say, than Hawaii. Like they have Boston Music Awards, which is cool. I don't know about any Hawaiian ones. And then I don't know, it's just more cutthroat in the sense of like you have to prove something over there. And it's definitely more hip hop centered. Yeah. And then for me, like for example, I go to this thing called the Testing Lab a lot, and it's in Brockton, and it's basically you do I think 4 songs in front of a panelist of like music professionals or people in radio, stuff like that, and they tell you their honest feedback on the songs. And I do my stuff. It's mostly just to like network for me, but also like, okay, yeah, like the best way of showcasing yourself is by live performing. And so I'll do my set, and every time I finish, like either one of them will be like, oh, I can't comment because it's not my type of music. And I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous, because I just did this so you can give me a comment. Even if it's not your type of music, you're still a professional. You should be able to have an opinion, you know? And then other people in the crowd, they'll like pull me aside and they're like, sis, this is not your crowd. You have to go out of state. You have to do this and that. And I'm like, what do you think I'm doing? I'm doing this out of like just to do it, you know, like to meet people like them that are saying like, sis, I believe in you, but this isn't your crowd. I'm like, I know it's not my crowd, but I'm still doing it, you know?
Yeah. That brings up a couple questions for me. One is about the process that you use to kind of make music and make art in general. Any like projects you have, your process for them. And then another is responding to and accepting constructive criticism. Like, how do you draw the line between you are your own artist and you're making something new, you know? Because like all generation history defining artists, a majority of them were criticized very heavily in their own time before changing the world, you know? Right. So how do you draw that line between understanding good, reasonable, acceptable, like constructive criticism while also pursuing your own thing and your own sound?
Yeah, dang. Yeah, that's a really good point. You have to, like, there's this image, this drawing that I've seen before where it's like, are these thoughts my thoughts or the thoughts of other people? You know, like you have to separate them. And definitely with the constructive criticism, it's like you choose what you want to accept, basically. So it's just like, I don't know, and who it's coming from too. Like there's a lot of different factors. Like if somebody that, I don't know, this is a bad example, like a construction worker telling me, oh, you got to do this and that with your music. I'm like, and who are you? You know, like who are you to tell me what I should do? I don't think that's really happened, but it's just like, you know, you have to accept the authority of some people. Like if Dr. Dre told me I need to do this and that, oh, I would take it so serious.
Yeah.
But if like his dog told me to do this or that, why would I listen to his dog? You know? But yeah, definitely also like the way I see it with certain like conversations too, like people are like, oh, I don't want to like intrude or overstep. And I'm like, I opened the door. I opened the conversation. Of course you can say this and that, you know?
Yeah.
Same thing with the music. It's like, and with just life in general, like if people ask for advice, then give them the advice, they're asking for it. Or if they're just trying to talk, like you have to know the difference, you know, like when people want to accept. That's another thing with my, just as a person too, like I'll tell people how I feel or like my opinion with certain things, and it's just wasted. It's on deaf ears because they're not ready to hear that, you know, they don't want to hear that. So why say it, you know? Yeah, I definitely accept like and embrace like people's opinions, because at the end of the day, I'm making music for others. Like for me, it's just a byproduct of like it's my stories, it's my experience, it's my ability or capability of like expression. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be the only one listening to my music. So I'm gonna take in what the next person has to say. And like I definitely make commercial music, so that's gonna be hundreds of thousands of different ears that I want to be likable to, and I'm not hundreds of thousands of ears. So with the whole like working process too, I'm really big on like the more the merrier, like the more minds on a track the better. Some of the best songs, but like some of the most accoladed or highly awarded songs have like 50 writers, 30 producers. Like I mean that's exaggerating, but you can see there's like more than 5, and it's like those are the ones that always go up because they had so many different people with so many other like different strengths, you know. Oh, I had the battery.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you for catching it. Well, that's perfect. And I will ask the second part of that question after it's replaced. And hopefully, final pause. We're back. Hopefully, nothing else happens. But yeah, so jumping back into that on taking like criticism and stuff, criticism and responses, basically, you know, from anybody. When you go back to Massachusetts and it's more of a hip hop scene mainly, how are you going to fit in there? Like, what type of genre do you think you will be then, or do you think you are now? And where do you think you want to go with it? Yeah,
as of late, I've just been telling people, I mean, this is what I also feel. I'll tell people I'm alternative pop R&B. And then I had a missed opportunity. Somebody asked me like, what's alternative pop? And I should have said, for me, they asked me like, who are some examples of that? And I could only say like really like Pink, like that's kind of that. But yeah, like that's my biggest thing is like you have to, for people to understand, you have to compare yourself to others. And for me, it's really hard because like for engineers, it's not modern practice, but it's like well appreciated if you give them like a reference track to like either the quality or the vocal or the beat that you want it to kind of sound like, just like a reference. And it was really hard for me for certain songs to find similar either music or artists in general. So I'm just like, I'm not really like anybody, and that's like also it's like a double-edged sword at this point. But I missed the opportunity to say like alternative for me means I get to put as many genres as I want under one thing, you know? So alternative is just different, I guess. So definitely alternative pop, and then alternative like punk, R&B, trap, because I also noticed like the last few songs that I like really like connect to, they have trap, some element of trap mixed with something else. So like for me, I think that keeps me kind of in the safe zone of like I can be on different radio stations and stuff. But yeah, I definitely just tell people I'm alternative, which means I do a little bit of everything, you know?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of like our generation kind of listens to alternative music more as boundaries within genres have been more dissolved.
Yeah.
I feel like that's even in everything, because I used to always just say I listen to like a lot of alternative music, and I would tell people it ranges from like alternative like garage band to alternative slow rap, you know, alternative more like fast rap, you know, and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of alternative, I think of like The Neighborhood and 21 Pilots and stuff.
Oh, so 21 Pilots. Like, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry. No. I'll say it afterwards.
No, go ahead.
Their drummer went to the same high school as me.
Oh, wow. That's random. Oh, because he's from Ohio.
Yeah.
He's there now.
They're both from Ohio.
Oh, wow.
I played soccer with his brother, and when I was in 8th grade, his sister was a senior at the school.
Oh wow! And he was already making music, or
yeah, by that time he was already famous and everything.
Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah.
Sorry, that was
No,
random
that's cool.
tangent.
I like that. Yeah, I definitely, that's how I see things too. Like when, like, this is way back from the beginning of this conversation. The way I see things too is like with Hawaii Pacific University, with Massachusetts, I want to be under the like Google like famous alum.
Real.
And like
yeah.
like people, I remember in high school we had like yearbooks and stuff, and there's this one, I forget his full name, but it was like Sammy or Sam or something, and like this other group, and they're from Massachusetts, and they made it in music, like being independent or doing whatever they did, but they have a following and people know about them from the area that I'm from because they're from there. So I'm like, I want to be able to, like, I'm also on the other side of it. I'm like kind of already embarrassed of like the people that knew me like in the last 5-10 years, and they're gonna be like, oh, that girl, I did this, isn't that with her? I'm gonna be like, no, I don't remember you. Like, I don't remember any of that. I don't know what you're talking about. But I'm already like, my head's there, you know, like I'm definitely, I want to be in that circle of recognition, I guess. I don't know the best way of putting it.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I meant to ask this earlier and then it slipped my mind. Do you feel like Massachusetts is important to you as an artist?
I would say yes, just because of all the ties I have connected to it and my artistry. And also like the next year that's going to happen is like I'm going to be based out of there making music and like basically establish like the dream I had for myself. But it's coming to realization because like in Hawaii I never had the space. Like I would need to rent a 2-bedroom, and even in I'm like moving to LA, I was thinking like I'll need to have this specific like 2-bedroom setup. And then I'm like in over my head thinking about how much rent would be, this and that, and like granted I am going to be paying mortgage to my mom, but I'd rather be paying off a house than rent, you know. Like it's actually going to something. So definitely adds to it, and like it's part of me. I can't escape it because it's like where I grew up, and like and like I grew up in a small town, like less than 18,000 people, so it's definitely gonna be interesting. Like I don't like running into people I know outside just because I'm like, oh, you don't know me. But when it happens, I'm just like, yeah, what's up? Yeah, what's good? It's been some time.
I bring that up because I relate to that wanted to be in that circle, you know. When I first started, I knew that one of the things that really mattered to me is I really wanted to lift up like Columbus in Ohio. And like it was that was one of the things that was super important to me, was the artists and people that I really wanted to be able to like help play my part in lifting the city up to get it to be big, you know, find its sound and everything.
I think similar to that, I think about that where it's like I could be known in my town for like going to jail and doing this and that, or I could be known for being like a team player, you know, and like uplifting the community I came from. That's how I see it here too. And like I would say it's one of my regrets in Hawaii is like I didn't do more for the community than I wish I had. But at the same time, I'm like, I've been trying to figure out my life too, you know. So I'm trying to give myself grace, but I definitely can't carry this regret into Massachusetts because I feel the same exact way, where it's like if I have the potential to maybe like be a mentor to like a younger someone that's interested, I'm like, there's so much I can pour into that person that I'm also continuously like pouring into myself. So definitely like just trying to be on the more positive end of being known, you know.
For sure. And then the next section is the final part, but it's pretty long and we get pretty deep into collaborations as an artist. Since this one's long, I'll let it just speak for itself. And then at the end, you'll get everything with us saying bye. So I'll see you after that. Your process with working on projects, working with other people on projects, making music. Can you describe that a little to me?
So it used to be, I just write lyrics like freely, no beat, whatever. And then I can tell you actually the process from like start to now. When I first started writing songs, which was like 3 years ago, I was just writing songs, poems, whatever. And then I went on YouTube and found beats that I was like, oh, this kind of sounds good on here. I made a melody with the lyrics. Now it's more so I write like melodies and stuff and then 2 beats. And so where I found a lot of success, like efficiently and just like inspirational wise, is I'll be with a producer and they'll make a beat and like within 30 minutes they'll have the beat and like the melody and stuff, like the structure of it already set, and I'll be writing on my laptop and like with melodies and stuff, and like sometimes I'll have to stop them and be like, let me record this now, or I'll just I'll write the full song and within 45 minutes from that beginning I'll have recorded like most of the song. So that's like I can write my songs and like do the whole process in less than an hour, like 30 minutes to an hour for sure.
Yeah. So was it hard putting that into place? Because I know for me, when I started any project I was working on, it was like I couldn't find the kind of tutorials and really just help I needed in figuring out putting systems in place to make that go smooth. What was that like building that up over the years?
Yeah, definitely Notion. Motion's a different thing. I tried Motion. I was like, nah. It was like almost $300 for a membership a year. I was like, this ain't it. But Notion I use for like really just the systems, like tracking everything. And like if I have a song, I'll write it in there and then I'll copy it over to like it's called like I have a song tracker, kind of like the process and stuff. And so I make it very clear of like, okay, this song was written, this song was recorded, this song needs to be mixed, this song needs to be mastered. This song needs a visual, this song needs content, Yeah. And then, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely like trial and error, kind of what we were talking about earlier too. It all relates back to it, where it's just like, okay, this worked for this release, but maybe it didn't work for this one because I didn't give myself enough time.
Yeah.
Or things weren't in order. And yeah, I don't really know how to answer that other than like you just gotta figure it out. And especially like with that too, I can't learn off of YouTube and stuff. Yeah. I definitely learn better like one-on-one or like through experience. So I'm kind of at this point I have to force myself to learn through failure. And like I think this is actually something I want to bring up during this talk was Jessie Reyes. She did an interview and somebody was like, what's some advice you would give like smaller artists or people just starting out in this? And she said to fail faster, which essentially just like, you have to put yourself in situations to learn, and you're not going to learn staying in your comfort zone and not failing, like, obviously I think like this is a tale as old as time, is like success is felt better when it's like you work harder for it. So I think that's also the journey I'm on, is like realizing like I can't keep on depending on people to basically baby me, I just have to put myself through the process and learn the hard way in the way.
Yeah. So with that, one of the hard things for me about kind of the process of putting anything together, any project, was learning how to collaborate with people and work with people, because I was never grown up or anything. I never like, I grew up outside of small country stuff, and just hung out with my dogs and like my brother in the woods. So I didn't really interact with people that much then, soccer practice, whatever. And then it took me years to learn how to network and work with people correct. So how does like the amount of people and networking kind of relate to that? And how do you work with the multitude of artists out there,
Yeah, honestly, this is funny. I posted on Threads something about like, oh, I want to collab with artists, like, reach out, and it did really well. I got like 200 likes and like as many replies. And then people were in my DMs, and I still have people I need to reply to. Yeah. And I tried, but I made it clear, like, in order for it to be a collaboration, like, we both have to bring something to the table. And if not, then, like, for example, it was artists of all kinds, like, even people like digital artists. And at that point, I was, like, comfortable paying them to, like, because I'm not a digital artist, but, like, I can come up with the concept. I can come up with, like, draw a template or whatever, and then they'd have to finish the project. But for me, that's not really... That's like a third of a collaboration, And then there was artists too that like hit me up, and I was like, oh yeah, show me some work. And then they sent me songs where they were the feature or they had features, and then it just wasn't up to my not level, but like my taste. Like the lyrics felt very recycled, and then the auto tune was on like 100%, and I couldn't even tell which artist was which because it wasn't a solo track. And I told them like, I was like, it was funny to me that whole interaction, that specific one, because I told them like, I forget where I was coming from, but I told them like my feature price or like just to work with me price, and they're like, oh, I charge whatever, and it was like $100 less than me. And I was like, okay, well, show me some of your work so we can like see if we can collaborate, whatever. And then after I heard the work, I'm like, no, I don't want to talk down on them, but I was like, I feel like I just threw a number out there because I threw a number out there, and I was like, it just doesn't relate. Like, it doesn't make sense for them to have wanting to charge me for how much they were asking. And then I told them how I felt, which was like, honestly, I think you use too much auto-tune, and I can't even tell who you are because you like send me a solo track, and then he just left me on red. So I was like, okay. And so I posted on Threads, I'm like, I tried, but at the same time, like, what really is a collaboration? Like, I've definitely collabed with different artists in the sense of like they produce the beat, I make the lyrics in the song, but there's other people that I've done that with where like they could easily do all those parts themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I feel like I have to also, one guy I work with a lot, he says a collaboration for him means him being able to sit away, like get away from his laptop or not sit in his seat. So like that would mean like me being able to engineer him while he's recording, me adding some beats to our production while he's, you know, chilling, getting him out of his seat. Like that's valid, because then we're truly both putting in work into the song, you know? Because that's someone that could do everything themselves. They're an artist too, so.
Yeah, I feel like number one is you have to want to work with the person, and if you don't like their music or like their work and trust that it's going to be something that, you know, that each of you can trust each other and like each other's work, then I feel like that's where it's possible. But if 1 out of 2 people in a collaboration doesn't fuck with like the other's work or the other's whatever, then how can it work, you know?
I mean, that's the key word, is trust, because like that's another thing that for the last 6 to 8 months I've been like, if I can't even trust the person, what am I doing interacting with them, you know? What am I doing? Because that's again like what we were talking about, like setting yourself for failure. Like if you don't trust them, that's just basically wishing bad on the project. It's just like, I can't trust them to do this or that, then it's just stress, you know?
Okay, let's see. So yeah, with that, how many artists have you kind of like seen throughout your time? Sometimes it gets hard for me to understand the scope of potential clients and clients when it comes to interviews and music videos and collaborations, XYZ. And for like the drinking game, I had to go through a list of like hella artists that I know to figure that out. What does the scope of artists look like in Hawaii and then in Massachusetts also?
Yeah, I mean, Hawaii is a little different because I feel like everybody can sing here. Everybody's kind of musically gifted in a way. It's just in their blood. So that's the thing. And that's something I've also been like, I made a video where it's like when a hobbyist hits me up talking about, I want to work with you. And I'm like, what? Like, unless you pay me, because it has happened where somebody paid me and I got like $500 for a video and a feature, or not even a feature, just vocals, because they wrote everything. And I was like, that's lit. Like, I just got paid $500 for basically no work, and like they're supporting me doing what I want to do, which is being an artist. But they also like aren't up and coming. It was their first song that they uploaded, like they were putting money into it, and I was all for it. But like, for example, when I first started making music, I was very overwhelmed. I don't know if that's the right word, like underwhelmed, because I'm just like, my Instagram, my social medias, everything, everybody was an artist, everybody was making music. I was just like, what the heck, like who am I then, like one fish in this big ocean? And then I thought about it and I was like, that's all I see, because that's all I follow, you know? I only really follow music and visual arts and stuff like that, so of course that's all I'm gonna see and think. But yeah, that's one thing that kind of grinds my gears, where it's like people they don't need to, like obviously, like if you enjoy music, like give into that, don't become a robot, like give into your musical ideations and everything. But like if you're gonna interact with me, please come like knowing what you're doing, because like some people have tried to work with me, and this happened recently where I've never felt this way before, but a rapper, he was like, oh like, yeah, just hop on the track if you want, this and that. And this was like after I've already been paid for multiple features. I'm just like, why would I do that, you know? Like I didn't say anything, I just kept to myself because I didn't want to be rude, and they're being very nice, but I'm just like, I heard them freestyle and stuff and I was just like, no, this ain't it. Like, keep making songs, keep getting better, but don't involve me, because it's not, one, it wasn't in my taste, and 2, it wasn't up to par with my like expectations, I guess. So again, I just stayed quiet because I was like, I'm not gonna be rude and like shit on someone's parade, basically. Like there's no need for that. So but I definitely also first, but they're like, oh yeah, hopping on the track, like very high energy, and I was just like, I'd rather not, you know? I never felt that way before, where it's like, normally the rooms I'm in is very much like, oh, I want to work with them, and I'm how do I say, like, not to come across as desperate, so I'm just like being cool, but like I would love if they were to offer like, yeah, do you want to, because that happened to me at the beginning of my career. Like the first time I ever stepped in a booth was because I would give a friend rides to their studio sessions, and so that was the first time I ever got to like professionally record, is because they're like, Sophie, if you want to, like, you know, you could drop a feature, and I did, and it was awesome. Like I freestyled and I felt like, you know, top dog, because I was like, that just came out of my head in the moment, and it was super awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I very much like, do your thing, but just know where you're coming from. Yeah. Because like I definitely also have friends like, oh, let's sing together. Like, yeah, that's fun, content, whatever. But don't expect me to think anything of it, you know? Yeah.
It's kind of a hard truth, I feel like, to give and to accept when it comes to working with people of different skill levels, you know, because also I know that given our conversations that you hold yourself to a very high standard, and then holding other people to that standard in regards to your career, like that's expected. Like, how could you not do that, you know, when you hold yourself to that standard?
Yeah.
So I totally get that, because sometimes it's just the harsh truth. And a lot of people, everyone to an extent, you know, it's difficult to hear.
That's the true hard truth.
Reality.
That makes me feel better. It's a hard truth. Because, yeah, I've talked about this with someone else. I'm just like, it's one of those moments where it's really don't quit your day job type thing. I'm just like, dang, like that is a hard truth. Like, and I'm thinking in my head, like, if this person is surrounded by people that are just like hyping him up, knowing that he's trash. Yeah, I'm like, those aren't real friends. Like, I've definitely had moments when I first started making music where they're like, I don't know. It's kind of differentiating between a supporter and like somebody who's like a fake friend, basically.
Yeah.
But I think if you were a real friend, you would tell them like either put more time in or do this and that to get better, or just don't treat it like it's going to be a career, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it's the harsh truth to be like, I don't think you're going to go anywhere. I'm sorry. And that's just one person's opinion. So it's just like, dang. Whether they pursue to keep going or not, it depends on how much embarrassment they want, you know?
Yeah. And as we go through this conversation, I'm realizing one thing I want to say to you, the audience listening to this. If you feel like your work is that work, the work that somebody needs to tell the hard truth to, whether or not that's true, that your work is not up to par with other people's, that doesn't really matter, because your work's always going to be worse than others and always going to be better than others. So that really doesn't even matter. For this conversation, I said what I said solely in regards to you and your career operating and working with who you want to work with. That it's important to have standards for yourself, know what your standards are, and that it's okay to not work with people and to draw the line when there's people who aren't up to your expectations. So if you feel like you're in the boat, one, you might not be, your perspective might be skewed and you might be too critical on yourself. And then two, if your view is true, where it is not where you'd like it to be, that doesn't matter, because everybody starts from somewhere, and it doesn't matter where you are now. It matters how you work today, you know?
Right. Yeah, I know. It's like I don't know, I feel like a bully saying all that, but it's just really like, take it how you will. Where I'm just like, I'm very big on like, if the shoe fits, you know?
Yeah.
And like, even with me, like if the shoe fits, it makes me think like, I have to rethink about some things, you know? If I get offended from something, or if I feel a certain way about something, I'm like, I should probably, you know, take a step back.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely strong on like supporting people. It's like to a certain point, how do I say it? Like, just not being ignorant, like just supporting people to like I said with that situation where I was just like, no, thank you. I mean, I didn't even respond. So that was me saying no. But I definitely just walked away instead of like being a bully or giving my 2 cents. So at the end of the day, I feel better about not saying anything. So that's just where I stand, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Now I feel like I told people to give up, but don't. just know who you're talking to, I guess, you know?
Yeah. I appreciate people who have been around me for several years, because I've shown them a lot of my work, you know, like pretty much every project I do. I'll have like my fiance, for one, I'll show her like pretty much everything I do, a few other close friends. And it's like, whether or not they want to give me the real feedback, I can appreciate that. I can always tell based on how they react, you know?
Right. And yeah, I'm kind of over the like people being too nice kind of thing. So I like that too. Like, you know, there's body language and just like, you know, and that's why I'm also like starting this, I'm like big on like, just tell me how you feel, because like I can't read your mind, and like again, you open the door for them to have an opinion on it. So it's just like, but nobody asked me for my opinion about that rapper, so I didn't say anything.
Real. All right, so we'll begin to wrap this up. One question, something that's been on my mind the past couple days. I saw a video yesterday or the day before, and it said, it was a guy, an artist talking, and he said, art is about doing, not about thinking. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because if you're only thinking about it in your head, it'll get nowhere. And like, that's like you could relate that to somebody inventing something that you were thinking about, but you're like, oh, I thought about that, but you didn't actually do anything about it. Somebody invented it too. All of our ideas are kind of circulated. Like nothing is truly original. Some things are very different or abstract, and it's like, whoa, like, you know, bending, I guess, mind bending.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like 3 other people probably thought of that too. So I agree with that, where it's like, like there's a lot of blockers for people to not, and this kind of relates to what I was just talking about too. Like if you have music as a hobby, if you have art, drawing, reading, anything as a hobby, you should just do that, but like give it its proper, like, how do you call it, like weight, I guess. Like for me, music, I want to make a career out of it, I want to make a living out of it, so I'm going to give it my all. But if I were interested in saving animals and had an interest in music on the side, my priorities would be very different.
Yeah.
And like I'm chasing art as a career, so I have to make sure I execute all the ideas. I like milk myself of all my ideas and creativity, versus the next person that maybe they're just trying to, you know, get promoted to manager. That's where all my energy would go.
Yeah.
But then definitely you have to nurture your artist and your inner child. And we grew up on Crayolas and, you know, colored markers, so I think we should always have some kind of art around us, and just from here to outside.
Yeah. Best advice for artists on building environments in which they can grow?
I love that, because it's definitely also, that's all a journey. And again, like for me, I think a lot of the truths that were important were ones that I avoided, in the sense of like knowing your worth and like knowing the rooms that you should be in or not. And like these are little things, but at the same time, like for example, I saw on Instagram Money Long, she made like the Hours and Hours and the Twin song, like Twin, where have you been? You know that one?
Maybe.
She's a songwriter.
If I heard it, I would probably know it.
She was a songwriter, and then she finally got like her own artist like solo career. But she was talking about how she was in a studio and she was talking about, I don't know, like how she got played by some guy, yada yada, with a friend. And J. Cole walks in and she said he didn't even last 2 minutes. He didn't say anything and got up and left. And she was like, oh, like he wasn't tuned in on the same like radio station, that frequency that they were tuned in on, which is like talking, you know, shit. And he protected his energy by just like, you know what, I'm not interested in this, I'm gonna go. And he didn't offend anybody, he didn't say anything. Like that's so respectable. Like that's where I'm at, where it's just like if something's not serving me and it's not like two ways, or like I'm being played, basically it's just like literally pack up and leave. So building the environment, I would say, involves like knowing what you want, knowing your needs. Like for example, I know I'm a ambivert, so like I love spending time outside with people or just being with people, but at the same time I definitely love being alone, like alone. Even in my partnership, like I don't know, he works from home, like remote, and so now that we're moving back to Massachusetts, the headquarters of where he works is in Massachusetts.
Oh yeah.
So it's gonna be very healthy, where it's like he's gonna go to work like 3 times a week, and I'm gonna be at home or whatever, like the whole day doing what I need to do. And I need that, because it's like I'll get sick of someone, you know, like respectfully I'll get sick of you, and that's just because I need like time to recharge and be myself again, or just like be a emo, you know. And so definitely knowing your needs. And like for me, I also know speaking into existence, like with my studio, my at-home studio, even with school and everything, I knew I couldn't like work where I slept. So I'm gonna have my bedroom, and then when I wake up to 12, like do what I need to do, slow morning routine. And then from 12 to 5, the studio's gonna be in the garage, so it's like downstairs. So leave my phone, leave everything, leave the world behind upstairs, walk down to my studio and lock in, you know. And that's what I need. I need to be separated from my life to my artistry, you know. So yeah, definitely just knowing your needs. And I know now that it wouldn't work for me if I had a desk in my room and a studio set up, because I have had that before, and no songs got recorded. It was just up for decoration, like. I had the equipment and I didn't do anything with it. I would still go to a studio because it's like outside of my room, you know? So I'm definitely looking forward to finally listening to my needs and just applying it, you know?
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay. So as we wrap it up, that camera's about to die. Could you say where to find all your social medias and places to listen to you?
Yes, I'm on all platforms. I tell people you can search me, Sophialfa. It's Sophia with a PH and Alpha with an F, because sometimes people mix them up and I'm like, that don't even look good. Like, this doesn't look right. So Sophia, Sophia, and then my second name, Alfa. I'm everywhere. You search that up, everything will come up. Make it easy.
Yeah. And then any last words for the audience, whoever's listening to this?
Thanks for listening this far, and thanks for supporting both of us. Share. If anything hit with you, definitely quote us, because that's one thing. I want to be quotable, or I know I'm quotable, so it's just like, I don't know, caption games are strong. Oh no,
it will survive.
But the closing, and yeah, how do I say it? Stand on your decisions, I guess. Like, stand on business. For me, the biggest thing too with this whole journey is like, I'm still promoting something that I decided 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And like, I'm getting to that point where it's like, oh, do I quit? And that's not even like an option, honestly, because I decided, like, with the whole job opportunity stuff, like, I can't even get a regular job. So like, or not regular, but I can't get a corporate job at this point. And it's not because I have pornos out there, it's because I decided to be an artist, you know? So it's like crazy that that's just, I have to stand on it. I made a decision 3 years ago and I'm standing on it, and I'm gonna see it till I die, basically. And so yeah, stand on business, stand on your decisions, and I don't know, hug someone, ask them how their day went, what made you smile today, you know, just be caring. And yeah, see you on the flip side.
Thank you, everybody. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. If you're driving right now, have a safe drive and have a good day. Drink water.
Yeah, drink water. Facts.
All right, bet. If you made it this far, really appreciate it. Once again, apologies for there being no video. If you're one of the people watching this on YouTube, checking it out for the video also, and especially to Sophialfa for having released this so late and without the video. Sucks. So apologies. I really hope that you enjoyed it and you were able to take something from this. Listening and talking, interacting, anything like that means so much more than you could know. So make sure that you use this time to go and check out Sophialfa's music, give it a listen, follow her on social media and everything. If you enjoyed this one, I highly suggest checking out another interview I did with Chaesar exclusive. That interview is going to be on screen now, the image of it, like the thumbnail, as well as the card thing that you can click. So thanks, bye.